Hello, my Barrow buddies. This is Miss Saba. I wanted to wish those of you who are celebrating Ramadan Mubarak, and if you have no idea what that means, then no problem, you're in the perfect place. I am going to be teaching all of us Barrow buddies a little bit more about what Ramadan is. So, Ramadan is a month in the Muslim calendar where lots of Muslims do three different things to be thankful and to celebrate this month. So, one of the things that they do is that they fast from sunrise to sunset, and that means that from the time that the sun comes up in the morning to the time that the sun goes down, they aren't eating food or drinking water. They're making sure that they're not doing anything harmful or saying mean things. Another thing that they do during this month is that they do some extra prayers and they try to think about why they're lucky and blessed and thankful. And then another thing that they do is give a lot back to charity. So they look at people who don't have as much as you and I do, and they try to help those communities in need by giving them money, by giving them food, or by volunteering their time. So to teach you guys a little bit more about Ramadan, I have some things that I'm going to show you and a book that I'm going to read. So let's get into it. All right, buddies, we are going to start off by reading our read aloud. This is called Lailah's Lunchbox, a Ramadan story. It is written by a Muslim author named Reem Faruqi and illustrated by Leah Lyon. Before I start reading the book, I do want to say that the author included a glossary in the back of the book, and the glossary is a place where you can write words and their definitions to make it easier for the reader to understand what is being talked about. The two words in this glossary are sehri and iftar. So sehri is when Muslim families eat before the sun has risen at the start of the day, and by eating that meal, they start their fast. So they can't eat or drink until way later in the day when the sun has set, and then they eat iftar, which is a meal that opens or ends their fast. So in the morning, they eat sehri before the sun has risen, and then in the evening, they eat iftar after the sun has set. This book is about a girl named Lailah who has recently moved to Peachtree City, Georgia. Do some of you know where that is? And she is being allowed to fast for the first time. And she's so excited, but she's a little nervous about how her school and her classmates are going to react. So let's start reading. Lailah's Lunchbox. "We won't be needing this for a while," said Lailah's mother, hanging up Lailah's lunchbox. "Imagine, I won't be eating lunch for a month," replied Lailah with a twirl. "I won't have to pack lunch for a month," said her mom with a bigger twirl. The year before, Lailah had wanted to fast with her best friends Hend and Ishrat during Ramadan, but Lailah's mom had insisted she was too small. Remembering that, Lailah stopped twirling. She missed her friends. Moving from one continent to another had been hard. On the map in her atlas, North America and the Middle East were 10 inches apart, but in real life, she was so much farther away. She wished she was only 10 inches away from Hend and Ishrat. She knew the sign to the highway said, "Peachtree City, you'll love to call it home." But she didn't agree with it. Abu Dhabi still felt like her home. The next morning, before sunrise, Lailah's mom gently nudged her. "Lailah," she whispered, "sehri time." Lailah chomped on her chocolate chip pancakes with her eyes closed. "Delicious," she said. "Come, let's pray now," said her mom. After sehri, Lailah snuggled back into her bed until her mom woke her up again, this time for school. As she left the house, her mom handed her a note. "Lailah, please give this note to Mrs. Penworth." Without her lunchbox to carry, her fingers felt extra free and swingy. She felt so light she skipped to the school bus stop. On the school bus, she read her mom's note. "Dear Mrs. Penworth, this will be Lailah's first time fasting for the month of Ramadan, so it is an exciting time for us. Please excuse Lailah from lunch for this special month. Thanks, Mrs. Mullick." Lailah didn't feel so bouncy anymore. What if Mrs. Penworth didn't know about Ramadan? No one else would be fasting with her. She folded the note into a teeny tiny square and hid it in her book bag. Lailah walked slowly to her class. Her throat felt dry all morning. When lunchtime arrived, she still hadn't given Mrs. Penworth her note. "Lailah, did you forget your lunch?" asked Mrs. Penworth. Lailah opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Samantha volunteered. "I'll share my lunch with Lailah." Mrs. Penworth shook her head. "Thank you for the offer, Samantha, but Lailah, please get a sandwich from the cafeteria." Oh no, I wonder what's going to happen. Lailah followed her classmates to the cafeteria. "Lailah, do you want some of my cream roll?" asked Anna. Lailah thought of telling Anna that she was fasting, but she didn't think anyone at Sunnyvale Elementary School knew about Ramadan. "No thanks," she started to say. "I didn't bring my—" "Are you sure?" asked Anna, unwrapping the cream rolls. Lailah watched the cream roll get smaller and smaller, and she didn't feel so sure. Cream rolls were her favorite. She looked away, but her nose still smelled food. Lailah wished she had given Mrs. Penworth the note. Even Isaiah's bologna sandwich looked tasty, and Lailah didn't even eat bologna. Her stomach rumbled. Suddenly, she had an idea. While everyone was busy eating, she snuck out of the cafeteria. Her stomach stopped growling. Where is she going to go? "Why, Lailah, it's a pleasure to see you. But what brings you here at lunchtime?" asked Mrs. Carmen, the librarian. Lailah felt safe among all the books. She opened her mouth, and this time her words tumbled out. Lailah told Mrs. Carmen that Mrs. Penworth and her classmates didn't know she was fasting. She told her how she missed Hend and Ishrat. It felt good to tell someone all the words that had been inside her mind all morning, and especially to tell her all about Ramadan. Mrs. Carmen understood. "You must feel special to fast this Ramadan," said the librarian with a smile. "I do," said Lailah, "but why is it so hard to explain?" "You know what I always do when I can't get my thoughts out or when I get shy about talking?" asked Mrs. Carmen. "I write my thoughts down." Lailah got to work. She wrote neatly, adding extra loops to her capital L. She worked so hard, her cheeks turned pink. Now I'm going to read the note that Lailah has written. "Dear Mrs. Penworth, I didn't forget my lunchbox today. It's Ramadan. My mom finally let me fast. This means I won't be eating lunch for a month. Sincerely, Lailah. P.S. I'm Muslim. P.P.S. My mom wrote you a note too. Here it is. P.P.P.S. Here's a poem I wrote about Ramadan. Ramadan is a month Muslims celebrate, a time to count our blessings and appreciate. Muslims fast before sunrise to sunset. But wait, that's not all just yet. Ramadan is a time for lots of prayer. We help the poor people to show we care. So, in the day, I won't be eating any food, but hopefully will stay in a good mood." Lailah hurried back to the cafeteria to join her class. Before school was out, she quietly dropped both notes onto Mrs. Penworth's desk. The next morning, Lailah swung her fingers as she waited for the school bus. Would Mrs. Penworth like her poem? Lailah hoped Mrs. Penworth wouldn't think she had forgotten her lunchbox again. She slowly climbed each step on the school bus. In class, Mrs. Penworth didn't say anything, so Lailah wondered what had happened. At times like this, she wished Hend and Ishrath were there with her. They would know what to say. At lunchtime, Lailah's feet felt heavy. She was sure Mrs. Penworth hadn't seen the notes. Everyone would think she had forgotten her lunchbox again. As she was leaving class, Mrs. Penworth patted Lailah on the back and handed her a message. Mrs. Penworth had made her capital L in Lailah's name extra loopy. Here's the note Mrs. Penworth wrote. Dear Lailah, I enjoyed your lovely poem about Ramadan. I'm impressed you're fasting. What a special time for you. You and your family must be thrilled. Would you share your poem with the class today after lunch? You could go to the library this month instead of the cafeteria. Mrs. Carmen is excited to see you. Sincerely, Mrs. Penworth. P.S. Mrs. Carmen told me that you missed your friends. I hope you keep making new friends with our class. Lailah twirled all the way to the library. She couldn't wait to share her Ramadan poem with her class. Later, at iftar, she would celebrate this day. That was a great ending to our story. I'm glad that Lailah finally found the courage to talk about Ramadan and that her teacher and librarian were so supportive of her. The author of this book also wrote a little author's note in the back to tell a little bit more about her experience. She said that she also grew up in Abu Dhabi and moved to Peachtree City, Georgia, and it was a big change for her, and she missed her best friends a lot too. What she also wrote is, contrary to what some may think, Ramadan is not all about food. It's about growing up and finally being able to fast. It's about cherishing the family with whom you sit down every evening at sunset to open your fast. It's about praying with the community and sharing with those in need. It's about inviting friends over for iftar and sending food to your neighbors. Lailah's poem is adapted from a note we used to stick on food my mother would send to our neighbors during Ramadan. It's a special month to celebrate, and each year I look forward to it, with or without cream rolls. Ramadan Mubarak. Ramadan Mubarak means have a blessed Ramadan. So that was our story, Lailah's Lunchbox. I hope it helped you learn a little bit more about Ramadan. Okie dokie, so the last part of our video is me just showing you some things that we have at my family's house to celebrate Ramadan, and these are some things that lots of different Muslim families might have in their homes, or just something that I can use to teach you a little bit more about Ramadan. The first thing that I have are some prayer beads, so even if you're not Muslim, you might have something similar in your house, maybe called a rosary or something like that. What my family calls it is a tasbih. There's lots of different names for this in different Muslim families, but we call it a tasbih. And like I said, they're just prayer beads that you can move with your fingers, and as you're moving your fingers, you can think of some prayers. You might want to count your blessings and think about what you're grateful for, but you can use these tasbihs or prayer beads in lots of different ways, and they come in lots of different colors and shapes and sizes. The next thing that I want to show you is a little statue or figure of two hands together in prayer. And in the hands, it says in Arabic, Allahu Akbar, which means God is great. So in a lot of different Muslim and Islamic art, you'll see that they use Arabic and they write it in really, really beautiful, almost like cursive if it was in English. They write it using different calligraphy styles, and it says different religious things on them, but they make it look super duper beautiful. Finally, what I want to show you is my parents are both from Pakistan, so we have a figure of a mosque in Pakistan. And what a mosque is a place of prayer for Muslims. So Christian people go to church, different Jewish families go to temple. There's lots of different names for places of prayer where people go to pray, but a lot of Muslims go to a mosque to pray. So this is a model of a mosque in Pakistan. In Athens, we have Al-Huda Mosque, which doesn't look like this, but it has the same sense of purpose. And lots of different families go here to pray. During Ramadan, a lot of families come to mosques and they might even eat their iftar meal together. So due to coronavirus and everyone staying inside, that's not really a possibility for Muslim families this Ramadan. So it's a little different. It might be a little more sad for some Muslim families, but everyone is trying to find the best way to celebrate at home. So that is what I wanted to teach you guys about Ramadan through this video. Hopefully you learned some more. If you have more questions, you can always email me. I would be happy to help you out. But if you have any friends in your classes that might celebrate Ramadan, make sure that you wish them a happy Ramadan. If you do celebrate Ramadan and want to talk to me more about how you celebrate, then feel free to email me as well. All right, that is it for me, Barrow Buddies. Hope you learned, hope you enjoyed. And I want to end this video by saying Assalamu alaikum, which is an Arabic greeting for Muslim families. And all it means is peace be upon you. So Assalamu alaikum, everybody.